A performer steps on stage and delivers the exact same performance to two different audiences. One audience erupts in applause. The other sits in uncomfortable silence. The performer did nothing different, but the reception could not be more opposed. This happens constantly in music, film, theater, any art form, and it reveals something fundamental about how meaning works. It is not just in the performance, it is constructed in the encounter between performance and audience. Reception theory and media studies makes this explicit. The audience is not a passive receiver of fixed, meaning they are active participants who complete the work by interpreting it. And that interpretation depends on what they bring to the encounter, their cultural background, their personal experiences, their expectations, their interpretive frameworks. Every audience member is watching through their own lens, shaped by forces mostly invisible to them. Take a recent example: a pop star performed a song at an awards show. The performance included elaborate choreography, multiple costume changes, and a message about empowerment. American audiences largely read it as feminist, reclaiming female sexuality and agency. Korean audiences read the same performance as overly sexualized, inappropriate, and contrary to values about modesty and respectability. The performance itself was identical, but the cultural frameworks for interpreting female sexuality in public performance are so different that audiences constructed opposite meanings. This is not about one culture being right and the other wrong. Both interpretations are real and valid within their respective contexts. The performance does not have a single true meaning that transcends culture. It has multiple potential meanings that get activated differently, depending on who is watching. The performer cannot control this. Once the work is public, it belongs to the audience, and they will make of it what their culture has prepared them to make. Stuart Hall's encoding-decoding model explains this. The creator encodes meaning into the work using cultural codes and conventions, but the audience decodes that meaning through their own cultural position. Sometimes the decoding matches the encoding. The audience gets what the creator intended, but often there are significant gaps. The audience reads the work through an oppositional lens, finding meanings the creator never intended, or a negotiated position, where they partially accept and partially reject the intended message. You see this constantly in how global audiences interpret music from other cultures. K-pop choreography that reads as synchronized precision and group harmony to Korean audiences might read as creepy conformity and loss of individuality to Western audiences, shaped by values of personal expression and standing out. Neither reading is wrong. They are just shaped by different cultural values about the relationship between individual and group. Comment sections make these interpretive differences visible in new ways. Previously, audiences experienced performances individually or in homogeneous groups, where everyone shared similar cultural frameworks. Now people from wildly different backgrounds watch the same content and discuss it in shared digital spaces. The interpretive conflicts become explicit and sometimes hostile. Reading comments on a globally popular music video is like watching different cultures collide in real time. One group is praising something, another group finds offensive. One group sees artistic innovation, another sees cultural appropriation. One group connects emotionally, another finds it confusing or alienating. Nobody is lying about their experience. They are genuinely having different experiences of the same content. Anthropologists would say this is because culture provides schemas, mental frameworks for organizing and interpreting information. When you watch a performance, you are not just seeing what is objectively there, you are unconsciously categorizing, sorting, comparing to things you have seen before, activating cultural associations. You do not even know you have. Two people with radically different cultural schemas can watch the same thing and literally perceive it differently at a neurological level. Generation also matters enormously. Older audiences and younger audiences bring different expectations and frameworks to the same performance. What reads as innovative and boundary pushing to a younger audience might read as derivative or attention seeking to an older audience who has seen these moves before. Generational culture shapes what you notice, what you value, what you find transgressive or safe. Individual biography matters too. Someone who recently went through a breakup will hear a love song differently than someone in a happy relationship. Someone dealing with depression will connect to melancholic music in ways someone who has never experienced it cannot access. The personal is always mediating the cultural. This creates interpretive communities, groups of people who share frameworks for making sense of cultural objects. Fan communities are obvious examples. They develop shared interpretive practices, shared language for discussing the work, shared theories about meaning. These communities teach newcomers how to read the work properly, according to group norms, but different fan communities of the same artist might have completely different interpretive practices. Power dynamics shape interpretation too. Marginalized audiences often develop sophisticated skills at reading against the grain, at finding subversive meanings in mainstream content, at seeing themselves represented in subtext because they are rarely centered in explicit text. Dominant audiences can afford to take representation for granted. They read more literally because the literal level already includes them. This is why representation matters so much. It is not just about seeing yourself. It is about what interpretive work you have to do, what mainstream audiences receive directly. Marginalized audiences have to extract through layers of interpretation. This is exhausting. And it shapes how you relate to culture. You become a more active critical interpreter because you have to be. The digital age has democratized interpretation in some ways. Anyone can post their reading of a work and find others who agree. Build a community around that interpretation. You do not need institutional approval or cultural capital to participate. But algorithms and platform dynamics create new hierarchies. Certain interpretations get amplified, others buried. Visibility becomes its own form of validation. Social media comments reveal cultural fault lines in fascinating ways. You can watch in real time as different interpretive communities clash, trying to assert their reading as the correct one, often not even realizing they are operating from fundamentally different frameworks. Both sides think they are being objective, just describing what is obviously there. Neither recognizes their objectivity as cultural. Performers sometimes try to control interpretation to insist on the correct reading of their work, but this rarely works once art is public. It escapes authorial control. The death of the author, as Roland Barthes argued, is the birth of the reader. Meaning is not located in the creator's intention, but in the endless play of interpretation by audiences. But complete interpretive freedom does not exist either. You cannot make a text mean anything you want. There are constraints. The formal properties of the work limit possible interpretations. Cultural context constrains what readings are available or plausible. Some interpretations are more defensible than others. Based on evidence and coherence, interpretation is creative but not arbitrary. What makes this complicated ethically is that some interpretations have real consequences. If a song gets widely interpreted as promoting violence or misogyny, that interpretation shapes its social impact. Regardless of what the artist intended, you cannot just say people are misunderstanding the work. If the misunderstanding is widespread and causing harm, interpretation is not just academic, it has material effects. The global circulation of music has made interpretive difference more visible, and more fraught music that works perfectly in its culture of origin gets misread or causes offense in other contexts. Sometimes this is productive friction that generates new meanings. Sometimes it is destructive conflict that shuts down conversation. Understanding that interpretation is culturally situated should create humility. The confidence that your reading is obviously correct should be suspect if something seems obvious to you. That is probably because you are so immersed in a particular cultural framework that you cannot see it as framework. You think you are seeing reality, you are seeing culture. This does not mean all interpretations are equal or that we cannot judge some as better than others, but it means judgment has to account for positionality, for the cultural location from which you are interpreting, and it means being curious about why others see things differently, rather than assuming they are stupid or dishonest. The richest cultural objects are those that sustain multiple, valid interpretations that work differently in different contexts. That cannot be reduced to a single message. This is not confusion or poor communication. It is complexity. It is art doing what art does, operating at multiple levels, simultaneously resisting reduction. To paraphrase, when audiences interpret the same performance differently, they are not malfunctioning, they are functioning exactly as audiences do, bringing their whole selves, their cultures, their experiences, their frameworks to the encounter with art and making meaning from that collision. The performance is the spark, but the audience brings the fuel, and what burns depends on what you are carrying. Subscriptions and likes are a huge help in building this channel.